let's talk about something huge happening right now in the world's energy system. It's a fundamental reversal, a massive shift that people have been talking about for decades, and now it's finally here. And it is changing, well, pretty much everything.
You know, for pretty much our entire lives and our parents' lives, the story of energy has been the story of fossil fuels. But what if that story has just hit its turning point? What if we are living through the exact moment the plot flips? That is a big question we're diving into.
And according to the think tank Ember, the answer is a big, resounding yes. The year 2025 was the tipping point. For the very first time, the boom in clean power wasn't just keeping up with our new energy needs, it was actually starting to push fossil fuels out of the picture. And this isn't some temporary blip. This is the start of a permanent decline. Okay, to really get why this moment is such a massive deal, we first need to zoom out and look at the history of how we've been making electricity. This one sentence, man, it just says it all. After more than 100 years, King Coal has officially been dethroned. The age of renewables, being the biggest player in our power grid, has finally begun. Now check this out, because what's so wild is just how long coal was on top. Yeah, there was this tiny moment way back in 1919 when renewables were ahead. But get this, global electricity demand back then was 300 times smaller. For basically the next century, coal was the undisputed champ, giving us around 40% of our power year in, year out. That long, steady dominance is what makes its fall in 2025 so incredibly dramatic. So what caused this historic flip? Well, it turns out one technology in particular is driving this revolution forward at a truly mind-blowing speed. Just look at that number, 636 terawatt hours. That is how much new solar power was added in a single year. It's a number so big it's almost meaningless, so let's try to put it into perspective. So how do you even wrap your head around a number like that? Well, try this on for size. That growth in solar just from 1 year is enough to power the entire United Kingdom twice. That's the kind of insane scale we are talking about here. And here is probably the most crucial piece of the puzzle. Solar isn't just growing in a bubble. It meant 3/4 of all the new electricity demand the entire world needed in 2025. So as our economies grow and we plug more things in, solar is what's stepping up to the plate. Seriously, this wasn't just a good year for solar. It was historic. We're talking about the largest annual increase of any electricity source in history, ever. The only exception was that weird rebound coal had right after the pandemic, which was a real one-off. And this chart just lays it all out, doesn't it? Look how dominant solar's growth was. I mean, wind had a really strong year, adding 205 terawatt hours, and nuclear grew a bit too. But solar's growth was more than 3 times bigger than wind's. It's just in a league of its own. Okay, so you've got this absolute tidal wave of clean energy hitting the grid. What happens to the old guard? This is where the story gets really interesting. It all boils down to some pretty simple math that changed everything. In 2025, the world added 876 terawatt hours of clean power. In that same year, global demand for electricity grew by 849. You see where this is going, right? For the first time ever, we built more new clean energy than we needed to cover all our new demand. And that meant there was literally nowhere left for fossil fuels to go. If clean sources are covering all the new demand, and then some, the only way to balance the grid is to start turning down the fossil fuel plants. For the first time, they weren't just slowing down, they were being structurally pushed into decline. So this is the new reality. Renewables are now the biggest slice of the pie. And look at coal. Its share has dropped below 1/3 of global electricity for the first time in modern history. It's a truly landmark moment. Now, we've seen fossil fuel use dip before, right? But those were always tied to some major global crisis that tanked the economy, like the financial crisis or the pandemic. This time is fundamentally different. In 2025, fossil fuel generation fell even while demand for electricity was growing. And that's because the fall wasn't caused by a crisis, but by the relentless structural growth of clean energy. This tipping point isn't just happening in a vacuum. It's already sending these massive ripples out across the entire global economy. Let's take a look. What's really fascinating is that this is even happening in the world's biggest coal countries. In 2025, both China and India saw their fossil fuel generation fall. Why? The exact same reason we've been talking about.
They are deploying clean power so incredibly fast that it's actually outpacing their own rapid growth in demand. And the consequences of all this are just profound. Emissions from making electricity actually fell, even though we used more of it. The power coming out of your wall is getting cleaner. And that clean electricity is starting to power other parts of our lives. The global EV fleet is now so big that in 2025, it cut out the need for 1.8 million barrels of oil every single day. The reversal in electricity is starting to cause a reversal in transport. So there you have it. The electricity sector has hit its historic turning point. The age of fossil fuel growth is over. The big question now is, what's it going to take to make this same incredible reversal happen across the rest of our economy, from heavy industry to farming? That is the challenge and the huge opportunity that lies right in front of us.